What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow, so today we are back going to be talking about Survivor Season 49, Episode 4. So, my name is Rachel.
And I'm Alyssa, and this episode of Survivor, we started with a fake out. I was so surprised when they showed the 2v2v2. I was so ready though, and then I was disappointed it didn't happen.
The first time we have two tribes and two tribe swap in the new era. So, this is a historic moment, historic episode we had here.
Yes. Historic in at least that way. I feel like in the rest of the ways it was kind of middle of the road episode, but
Yeah, which we'll get into it. Are these people swap screwed? Is the two tribe swap here actually not that good? How can they fix it? But we start off this episode with some ramifications from last week. Last week was a very hectic episode. We see Alex and Sophie are the last two blue members standing. Alex doesn't really seem mad that Sophie made him play his idol, basically. Alex is probably going to use it either way, but at the end of last week's episode, he seemed a little bit sad that he, quote, wasted his idol, but it seems like there's no bad blood between the two, and they actually have a bond that is pretty cute.
yeah, I think it always happens if you're like one of the few people left from a tribe, like you kind of ended up bonded together just based on that. So I think that it's going to be interesting, especially since they were separated with the tribe swap, to see how that bond plays out in the future.
I feel like they can both go really far now. Honestly, I could see them being in final five even. Like they're just not that threatening as a twosome, and it seems like we're going to have a red versus yellow war that these two blue members will be able to slip through the cracks. Both seem very likable, both seem to have good social games that I think people wouldn't necessarily see them as super threatening until you realize, like, hey, these two battled through heck and they are making it to final tribal. We don't want that. Let's cut them. But it seems like I think these two can go very far now because why target them? You've got bigger fish to fry right now.
Yeah, I do think final five is a little bit of a bold claim, but I guess we'll see whether or not you're right.
Yeah, you can, I guess, make a bet. No bet.
No bet. I'm not betting on that.
So I feel like these two aren't too threatening as a twosome. It would also be interesting if maybe they play up like, hey, we aren't that close. Like we saw Sophie tell Savannah that Alex used his idol last episode. Maybe people think like, okay, she wanted to vote him out and she wanted to take Jeremiah, but because he had the idol, they're forced into it. They could try to pull like a Kyle and Camilla, and maybe that will trick people out to their closeness of their relationship alliance.
And she also said, I'm not supposed to be telling you this. So it's kind of like, oh, I'm already willing to betray Alex after one day on a new beach, which I think some people would take as a red flag.
So, blue team, they just got a lot of bad luck because we see them wake up to the waves hitting them. And I was like, oh, this is like really sucks because now you're wet and you're maybe cold and you woke up to waves running you over. Sophie also loses her shoe to the ocean. So the shoe bandit strikes again and Jake wasn't even there. So they just have a lot of bad luck.
The shoe bandit strikes from beyond. It's like spooky. So I do wonder, like, what happened where they were able to get so high, because I think they wouldn't be silly enough to put their shelter where it could get hit during high tide. But
To me, it looked like they were just sleeping on the beach and then their shelter was like back in camp. I guess I
oh,
thought they were just sleeping on the beach.
that makes more sense. I thought that maybe their shelter was just so crappy that so that makes more
He got
sense.
sucked out to sea.
Yeah.
So we get to the tribe swap. The blue team, they are so happy, so excited. This is a new lifeline here in the game. They're literally like burying their buffs, jumping on their buffs. So I thought this was funny to see.
Yeah, I mean, if you were the team that sucked so bad, I feel like I too would like throw my buff into a fire, except for they didn't even have fire to throw their buff into. So definitely makes sense.
So Jeff has them draw new little pouches to get new teams, and people are unraveling them, and then they see, oh no, there's only two colors in here. We're not switching into three tribes of three, but we're switching into two, yellow and blue. Which I was like, oh, if I got stuck on blue team after they just like literally lost every single challenge and a guy got bit by the snake and medevacs from blue team camp, I'd be like, I'm not going there. There's snakes in the water over there. Like, take me to red.
I do think though, just doing basic math, I feel like you would have to know, like, oh, we can't switch into three because 14 divided by three isn't even. Like, did they think that they were just going to let one team start one member down? Like, I have so many questions. But then also, kind of like, I feel like letting one team go to blue and one team go to yellow feels kind of like letting one team start one team member down. Like, why didn't they have them go to like yellow and red, who at least were more equal? Like, I'm just confused by that.
Yeah, like it seems like Blue Tribe camp just sucks. Like they didn't have any reward wins. The red team camp, you're no longer like going back to there. So I was wondering, like, does red team just lose all of their reward stuff? Do you need to start bringing the stuff you win from reward to challenges? Like, will you even be able to keep it? Because red team got split up, then you're like negotiating, like, no, we want to keep the fishing gear and bring it to blue. Or you're like, no, we're taking it to yellow so we can have two sets of fishing gear. So I thought that would be interesting, like because they demolished and like got rid of the one camp that actually won rewards, what happens to all their stuff?
Yeah. But then it's also like you really want to be lugging all of your reward stuff back and forth, especially if you are a team that has so much of it.
Yeah, that's the hard thing. You probably don't like you have to set up your hammocks every time and then take them down every time you go to a challenge. It would be fairly annoying. But if I got sent to Blue Beach with the killer snakes and they have no reward wins, and you're from like either yellow or red, which did have reward wins, I'd be like, what the heck? This sucks. We got sent to the loser beach with nothing.
We got sent to the loser beach with the loser people, and everything's gonna suck.
Yeah, just like red, we saw them laughing about laying on yellow team's hammocks. So you get switched into luxury. It's nice. You got switched onto the bad camp. Sucks. You don't get anything.
Yeah. Which again, I feel like one of the things that we talk about is when you are the like loser team like blue, part of it is the snowball effect of if you don't have flint and you don't have anything comfortable and you haven't eaten, like it makes it more difficult to win future challenges. And so it's kind of like being switched onto the blue team kind of feels like putting you at a disadvantage. Even though the blue team did end up winning this time, I feel like if they hadn't, it would have been like, well, how much of that is because you put us on the sucky beach?
Especially because we see Alex telling them later, like, oh, we were eating worms. And then they're like, what the heck? This place sucks. We were eating crabs. I honestly got sick of eating crabs. It's like, wow, you lived in luxury prior to this.
Yeah, I would love to have eaten crabs. So,
So we get two teams of seven people, and low-key, honestly, I feel like it swap screws people. It's like obvious now to me watching. I'm like, okay, Matt or Jason go first, and Sage and Shannon go first off of their respective tribes. Like, if they lose next week, it's probably one of those four or three now going.
yeah. And it's also like now which tribe loses more is also going to determine which of red or yellow go into the merge with numbers. So, it feels like swap screwing all around and it's not interesting. It's not interesting.
I agree. I think it's basically setting up the rest of the season because if you are red and you go into the merge with more numbers and like you vote out two or three original yellows here, like you're just going to stick together probably and then you decimate the other people. There's no real incentive to flip on your OG people because why? You've got like so many people on your team. Just vote out the other people.
Yeah, you've got so many people on your team and then like if there's someone who annoys you, you'll have time to vote them out eventually. So, not a big fan.
So we get the two teams. I'm going to pull up the slides. so we can see them. So we got new yellow team here, which consists of two OG yellows, Matt and Jason, four OG reds, Rizzo, Jawan, Nate, and Savannah, and then one OG blue in Sophie. So I thought Sophie on new yellow, she was putting in the work. Like we see her talking to everyone. She's got herself into the majority alliance on this team. And we see Sophie and Savannah bonding. Sophie reminded Savannah of her friends back home. And I'm like, if Savannah likes you, you are in.
I also think it helps that she was like, "Oh, I'm just a little puppy who needs a home." Like she didn't present herself as a strategic threat. She just presented herself as a number, which is kind of what you need. And I think especially like she was focusing on being personable rather than strategic too, where like if someone likes you and they have no strategic reason to get rid of you, it's easiest versus if someone doesn't like you, which is kind of what we see play out later too, where being likable is worthwhile in this game.
I agree. Seems like all the top guys in OG Red really like Sophie. We see her and Savannah bond, her and Rizzo bond, her and Nate bond, and those are the top three dogs in this camp. So I was like, okay, her and Savannah, I think, are going to be a very fearsome duo. I can see those two running the game.
Yeah, and I think it would be fun if they ran the game because they're very strategic minded. It's not just like, oh, we're going to vote out rando person. They have reasons for everything they do.
And this is smart from Sophie, although I feel like it's obvious for her to go with OG Red here because there's four of them. Like, to me, it doesn't really make sense to go with and like make a threesome with the two OG Yellows in Jason and Matt because like, okay, then you need to pull a red over. If the reds seem intact as they are presenting and Joanne thinks they are, like it makes most sense just go with the numbers and ride with it. Save yourself.
Yeah, save yourself. You can worry about what else you're going to do later, but save yourself first.
Exactly. So on New Yellow, we also see Savannah asking Matt what his former job was. Matt right now works at the airport as an airport ramp agent. And then she's like, oh, what did you do before you worked at the airport? And Matt is like, really awkward answering this question. Like, you should have just played it down. But he's like, oh, like, da 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 da, stalling. Then he's like, I worked in finance. I worked my way up. I was branch manager. I'm like, yo, this is not good. You got to play it down and just like not be so awkward answering the question.
Or even just literally, oh, I worked in finance. I didn't like it, so I moved on. Like,
Yeah,
because
literally.
I
You don't
think,
need to say you're a top dog.
and also like finance, especially, is I think a lot of people think like, oh, if you're in finance, you must be rich. So if you're like, oh, I was in finance, I didn't like it, I left, I think gives a very different perception than like, oh, I was in finance, I was top dog, and then I left, if that makes sense.
Yeah, especially it's like the way like Matt's persona and his looks go off. I'm like, you wouldn't really think he worked in finance.
No. If you had to pick which person on that tribe was a finance bro, he would be my last choice.
Yeah, literally. I'm like, I don't really think you see that hairstyle in finance.
No, no, you don't.
So Savannah, she did not like Matt's former job. She kept on saying people in finance are sociopaths. Matt's maybe a sociopath. Like she did not like that answer.
No, no, she did not. So I kind of get it though, because finance bros in general, scary.
Yeah,
So
I'd be interested if Matt was like on Wall Street or like a small like firm or whatever, because I think there's a big difference.
yeah, I think he kind of gave the impression when he was like, "Oh, I worked my way up." Like that to me seems more Wall Street-ish, but could be wrong.
Yeah. So to me, this whole scene, I'm like, you really don't want to get on Savannah's bad side. It's like the third time now we see something small make Savannah use it against you in confessional and make her not like you. Episode one, we saw her not like Jawan because of the fire incident. Next time we saw Sage throwing out her name, and then Savannah doesn't really like her, which maybe that one's a little bit more warranted. And then here using Matt's job against him, and then like not liking him, and then calling him a sociopath. So it's like you don't want to be on Savannah's bad side, or she's going to really roast you in confessionals.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's one of those things where we've talked before about how in Survivor, sometimes you're looking for the littlest thing to be able to vote someone out. So I think in a way, maybe Savannah's just like preparing to be able to vote anyone out by finding something like objectionable in every person.
I agree. I would like to see a confessional. Like, is she using this as strategy, or do people just do things that anger her often? Because if it is strategy, like, okay, I found this thing I don't like, use it against them, get other people to not like them because of that thing, and then vote them out or ostracize them, not let them in the alliance, kick them out of the alliance. I think that would be very good strategy. But I feel like we haven't seen a confessional like, oh, yeah, I'm picking these small things about people and then like flipping it and then trying to get them voted out because of it.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be interesting because Savannah has definitely been set up as a power player this season. Like, I think we're getting a lot of the story from her perspective. So I think she's going to go deep, and it's going to be interesting to see how that happens.
I agree. So we go to the new blue team here, and this team has two OG reds in Shannon and Sage, four OG yellows in Sophie, MC, Steven, and Christina, and then one OG blue in Alex. They do their introductions on the beach that we see. Sage introduces herself, doesn't say anything about her, says her name, and then jumps to, like, I collect blackheads in a jar. And I was like, what? What the heck?
That made me like physically shudder because, oh, oh. But it does kind of go along with the vein of like Sage only talking about bodily functions. Like we got pee, we got poop, now we got blackheads. Like she's just really, really making sure that we know everything about her bodily functions.
I was like, girl, I don't know if you want to lead with that. Like, that's really great. Maybe it's good for Survivor. You're like very honest, but I feel like you don't want to share this on national television. That's probably bad.
I mean, I feel like in a way it can be seen as a strategy. Like she is definitely not someone that I would think of as threatening after her like idea of an ideal introduction being I collect blackheads in a jar. So
That's true. Maybe we need a confessional from her saying she's playing up this like weird, quirky side, and maybe she just is brutally honest about these kinds of things. And I agree. I would think like, this person is maybe more trustworthy because you're not as sketched out by someone because they're so upfront. I'm like, that's something you would not share with anyone, and she's sharing it. So I want to work with her.
yeah, I'm like, I'm not sure that Sage is capable about lying about anything because she decided to divulge this information that definitely should not be divulged. So I would want to work with
I,
her because I would trust her not to lie to me because she seems incapable of it.
Yeah, I'm sort of like, I don't want to see a picture because I feel like that would be very gross, but I'm like, blackheads are very small. So, like, how do you even collect enough to make it look like a jar? I feel like I imagine a jar that looks like a bunch of pepper kernels in it. I'm like, you would have to collect hundreds or thousands of these things to actually make it look like not an empty jar. I'm like, that's really gross.
Yeah. Mm. Mm. But it's so interesting though because we're getting these kind of like anecdotes from Sage, like, oh, I collect all my blackheads in a jar. But then also you get her like absolutely brutal reading of Shannon. And I'm like, these two things feel so incompatible. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. Like, we also see Shannon doing more spirituality, more religion chats with people, which I also thought was interesting that Survivor edited it this way, because I feel like usually it'd be more like of a positive, like edited thing. But here it seems like, oh, it's like a negative. Maybe Shannon is using it to manipulate people. Like we heard Steven say Shannon is a shark in spiritual guru body. Sage says she's not buying it. She's saying it feels performative out here on the islands. And I was like, okay, that's very interesting. Usually I feel like spirituality, religion is edited positively.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. Just like in general, I feel like we haven't seen a lot of Shannon where it would be like, oh, yeah, Shannon has a reputation for X, Y, and Z. And I guess we're meant to kind of start seeing her as a villain because it is two different people being like, oh yeah, she's being kind of sketchy with this. But like it just felt kind of out of left field to me personally.
It's also very interesting because it's like, okay, maybe the first tribe wasn't into it, so she toned it down. Second tribe, maybe there's more people into it, so she's going to talk about it more. It would be interesting, like, if it actually is like her strategy and she had a confessional about it being strategy, or if it's truly just like her personality. I feel like it could be really interesting if you did try to use it as strategy.
Yeah, and I think the fact we didn't hear from Shannon either way kind of leans to me towards it being not strategy and it being genuine because like you wouldn't randomly go into confessional and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm being so genuine about my interest in people's religions." Like it wouldn't even come up if it was genuine. Whereas if it was a strategic choice, I feel like in a confessional you would say like, "Oh yeah, I'm not that into religion, but people seem to really be liking it, so I'm hamming that up." So,
That's true. I think like Shannon, like we saw her on her OG Red Tribe, and then here too, when she does like the breath work stuff in the morning, there's always like looks people are giving the camera. Like Savannah was like, about the breath work, but she wanted to work with Shannon. Here we see like Alex's eyes are open during the breath work, like giving the camera like a, oh, this is sort of interesting, weird kind of look. So I don't know. I think it's like hard because she's like making everyone do it, or everyone feels like they have to do it in the morning because if you're the one person that sits out, then you're going to look bad. So I think like that's interesting because maybe other people don't want to participate, but they feel forced to.
yeah, and it is interesting cuz it can also just be a way to build a relationship with someone where like maybe it didn't start as everyone being like, "Oh yeah, we should do it," but maybe it started as Shannon being like, "Oh, if you want, I'm gonna be like doing breath work," and one person being like, "Oh yeah, I'll do it," and then suddenly everyone's like, "I'll do it," so that like you can't use that as an excuse to have a strategic conversation with someone or something like that. So you know what I mean? Where it could have easily become strategic, even if it was never meant to be strategic.
Yeah, and it's like you can't say no. If like two people do it, you sort of have to say yes. It's like the group think behind it. And it's like similar like we see people do it like with yoga too, and some people are like I really hate yoga. I don't want to sit here and stretch. They make comments like that too. So, sort of similar in that way.
Yeah. It it's interesting what kinds of things become like the group activity that people feel like they have to do.
So, speaking of Shannon, we see Shannon and Christina talk together. Christina is sharing that it is her mom's 3-year anniversary of her mom passing away. She passed away after having an addiction from a procedure. And I thought that this was really terrible. Like, this was a very, very sad story. But I'm also glad that we, like, Christina got to share it and we got to learn about her more because I feel like we haven't really seen anything from her thus far.
Yeah, I gotta say, the fact that she suddenly started getting content started making my alarm bells ring because I'm like, oh, is she going home soon? Because we're suddenly starting to see her after not seeing her hardly at all. So I did think she had a really beautiful story, like about her relationship with her mom. I also really liked what she had to say about how addiction isn't something that like has a target audience because I think a lot of people think of addicts in a certain way, and like that's like she said, just not the way things are. And so I really hope that if someone like does see this story, it helps them think about addiction in a different way.
Yeah, especially because it was an addiction formed from a procedure, which is just extra sad. It's like that's very terrible. And I think to me, it's like from that story and then with the immunity challenge, once her team wins, she says like this one's for Karen. So it makes sense that she got the mom content, especially if like this day or this group of days was the anniversary of her passing.
Yeah. So I hope that does mean we're going to start seeing more of her, and it's not just going to be that she's getting voted out soon, but who knows?
Hopefully, yeah, hopefully not getting voted out. My money would be on Shannon or Sage getting voted out first of this tribe because they are the two lone reds. I feel like Shannon's getting voted out first, though.
Yeah, I feel like Shannon's getting voted out first because they kind of set up people not liking or trusting her. So,
Yeah. So we're going to go to the immunity challenge. They have to pull a boat, get some big cubes, get the cubes over a balance beam, and then stack the 20 cubes high. I thought this was fun. It was a different like end part of the challenge, not just the puzzle there at the end. It was finally interesting to see something different than obstacle course and then puzzle. So that was fun. And also that's why Jason's team didn't win because there was no puzzle.
I was gonna say it did kind of make me laugh that as soon as the one team was decimated because they couldn't do puzzles, they finally do a non-puzzle challenge. Like you couldn't have switched this challenge around to be one of the challenges when blue still existed. Because I feel like maybe they might have had a fighting chance at this one.
That's true. I was like, especially if it was like the four blues back then, and like I think like Jake could carry Sophie up and then like they could really get really tall.
Yeah, they should have been able to do that, but it's okay. I also thought it was strange because it's kind of a deceptively simple end to the challenge as far as like, you wouldn't think like, oh, stacking 10 blocks is so hard, but like it was difficult.
Yeah, I liked it. It like took strategy of how can we make ourselves taller and like problem solving in real time of like, okay, this didn't work, this worked, let's keep going. Oh, we're not tall enough anymore. We need to get taller. What do we do? I thought it was a great end to the challenge.
Yeah, I thought it was a great end to the challenge too. I did feel bad for poor Nate. He was like literally carrying his team.
So, the reward for this challenge was a fruit platter, and it's the first food reward of the season. Sophie, not Blue Sophie, OG Blue Sophie, Sophie with an E, did not like the fruit. She says, that is diet food. I want some carbs and protein food instead, which I'm like, okay, she's not wrong, technically. But I'm like, I'm glad the editors kept this in. I want to see people complain because sometimes us as viewers, we're like, that's a crap reward. How come no one's saying anything? Everyone's like, "Thank you, Jeff. This is the best thing on earth." But we're like, "No, this is bad reward." So I'm glad someone said it.
Yeah, it also does give me hope that maybe they're complaining more often than we see.
Yeah, I'm like, Applebee's is the greatest restaurant, but I'm like, these people are literally on their knees for Applebee's.
Yeah. So I do wonder, like, could they negotiate a different reward, do you think? Or do you think it would always just be too bad, so sad? Like, if he
I feel
says worth playing for, and everyone's like, actually, no, we don't want to play for this, what happens?
they force you. I feel like we've heard prior contestants, they say like to Jeff or the host in other foreign seasons, they talk about food that they're like interested in eating, then it might show up like at the auction or at a future reward challenge. So maybe if Sophie is like, yeah, I want burgers and fries and milkshakes, maybe in a future challenge they will have burgers and milkshakes.
That would be sweet.
Yeah, so we see Matt sort of bad at the balance beam, falls off a few times. I feel like maybe this could have been the nail in the coffin because the two teams were pretty close at the end, stacking the blocks. If Matt didn't fall off twice, maybe they could have been even closer or won.
Yeah, I do gotta say, MC is a beast. That was so awesome. Like everything she
No,
did during this challenge, I was like, wow, you're so great. So
literally, that's my next note that I have in my notes. I was like, MC is a beast. Like we've said multiple times, beast on the balance beam here, beast on the stacking portion. Like now, her and Jason are split up. MC a beast at the physical portions, Jason a beast at the puzzle portions. I was like, I agree. MC did so good.
I really want to know, like, what does this season of Survivor look like if MC and Jason like weren't on this season of Survivor? Because I feel like there's a whole alternate reality, the like MC list 49, and I want to know what it's like. I don't want to live in that reality, but I want to be able to like visit. You know what I mean?
Like we said last week, the two people that got kicked off the season and got replaced by the two challenge beasts in the like team portion, they're yeah, OG Yellow is probably like, thank God those people got kicked off. They got replaced by two really good challenge people here. Like it really rounds out our team with a good physical and a good puzzle person.
It also probably makes production glad that it happened because it's like, oh, these two are like really good, like players and really good characters, like it's better that they're playing. Like imagine if they had just been alternates and not been allowed to play.
Yeah, or they're like, dang, now yellow's too OP. They keep winning everything. It sucks that two good people got put on their tribe.
Yeah.
So the stacking portion, like we said, was very interesting. I felt bad for Alex. He had MC and Shannon on his back, and I was like, oh, that's gotta hurt. I'm like, you're gonna have some back problems. That is a lot of weight on there.
Yeah, I am curious, like, what additional rules they were told. Because it seems to me like the strat would just be stack all 10 of the small blocks and then lift them up all at once. Like, yeah, it might be
Mm.
difficult to balance all 10 of the small blocks, but like, it wouldn't be impossible. And I feel like that would be easier than trying to like stack them up one by one. So I'm curious, like, what the additional rules might have been surrounding the strategy behind this challenge.
That's true. Maybe there is a thing where you have to stack big first and then small in terms of like you have to do it one at a time. Because, yeah, like you're saying right now, I think that makes a lot of sense. Stack all the big ones, like they said, and then just put all 10 small ones on top. I feel like they must have a rule saying you have to do them one at a time.
Yeah. Which is lame, but understandable.
And both teams are really close at the end, but Blue, they pulled it out. And then Christina knocks down at the tower, says it's for her mom, and then like flops over. I was like, oh no, she got hurt.
Yeah, I worried about that too. But also, those challenges seem exhausting. So it kind of makes sense that someone would be like at the end of one.
Yeah. So yellow team is going to tribal council. I'll put the slides back up so we can see. These are the 7 people going to tribal. Sophie, like we said, seems really in with OG Red. After this, we see Rizzo tells her about the Beware Advantage clue that he found. I was like, that's really good. She's in with this foursome. So we also see Savannah, Nate, and Jawan looking for Rizzo's clue without him even there. I wonder if they could have just stolen it because they read the entire thing without him and then gave it to him. Like, what if they just went to the water and got it? Could they just keep it?
I gotta say, the amount of times that we bring up stealing idols on our podcast, I feel like there must be some rule against it because we have brought it up, I swear, like 10 different times just this season. And I feel like if it were allowed, like someone would have done it by now.
Sophie wanted to do it to Alex. If they let Sophie in on the clue here, maybe she would try to steal it from Rizzo, but that would be a bad look considering you're the like odd person out on this camp. So she
Yeah,
probably wouldn't have stolen it, but I'm like, could they? They read it without him. You could just go get it.
yeah. But if you're trying to ingratiate yourself to new people, you don't want to be stealing their stuff.
So the 3, they give it to Rizzo for Rizzo to go and fetch for himself. So that's very nice. They don't want to steal it out from under him. Rizzo is looking for it in the rocks water area. Then he's like, says something about the Hudson River and says there's dead bodies in there. And I'm like, oh, New York is not going to like this.
Yeah. Well, also, the waters of Fiji the ocean, and there are dead bodies in the ocean. So I'm just saying, Rizgod, there's probably dead bodies there too.
They're just like further away.
Who knows? I don't know. Maybe Jake secretly did die and they replaced him with a body double, and his dead body is in the beach at Fiji. You never
Yeah,
know what Survivor production is covering up.
the snake is killing a bunch of people. There's actually a lot of dead bodies around. I guess they're at the other camp, but the other camp had a lot of dead bodies of the snake.
Yeah.
So Rizzo finds the idol and then he says his little catchphrase, the man, the myth, the legend, Rizgod. And I was like, do we know the origin of this? Like, how did this come up? Where, like, why spell it out, single letters? Why not just say Riz God? I have a lot of questions here.
Yeah, I also, it was funny the first time, but it's getting less funny every other time.
I think he said it like 3 or 4 times this episode.
Oh, I know. I considered making it into a drinking game.
Then you might soon if he gets a lot more confessionals, because every time a confessional comes up, it's basically that saying. So I do wonder what was the origin, and then does he say this as much in real life as we see it on TV?
I kind of hope that one of Rizzo's friends comes and is like, "Oh yeah, every day when we see each other, Rizzo just is like RIZGOD," and I just kind of have to deal with it. Like
Yeah.
I want the confessional from Rizzo's friends.
And then, like, was Riz God a nickname before or after Riz became a thing? And then, like, what was the origin of, like, why would you call yourself a god? Did something really good happen in your life that you're like Riz God? Because I wouldn't be
Yeah,
like List God, Rach God, unless we were like super great.
yeah, I would say Riz God if I like managed to like get someone to go on a date with me who was way out of my league, but somehow I doubt that happened to Rizzo to name the Riz God name.
Yeah. So I was like, what's the origin? Or you're like, I got an A on this math test. So I'm like math god, Riz God.
Who knows?
So we see Matt and Jason. They have two different strategies because they are the two people on the bottom here. Matt throws out Sophie's name, Nate's name. We see Matt and Joanne on they because they went on the journey together with Jake. They're sort of bonded here. They are talking, and then Matt goes and says to Joanne, throws out Nate's name, trying to break up OG Red. And I was like, ooh, okay, this is spicy. This is interesting. Joanne is going to flip because Joanne maybe knows he's on the bottom, feels bad vibes. And I was like, dang, Joanne is a really good actor because I thought he was going to flip. 10 seconds later, he's telling all the Reds about what Matt said.
Yeah. I do wonder if it would have been better for Joanne's game if he would have flipped here, but I do think it's interesting because Jason and Nate had Matt. Where'd Nate come from? They had very different strategies, but I don't think that Matt went home because his strategy was necessarily worse, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd say, like, technically, Matt isn't wrong that Joanne should flip. Like, from what we've been seeing in the edit, and Savannah directly says right after that in confessional, she's like, yeah, technically he is the fourth and he should, but good on Red. They're keeping him ingratiated, even though they don't like him as much. But, like, technically, maybe Matt is right here. Jawan should flip, but, like, they already lost. They don't have Sophie's vote, so you wouldn't even have a four. It seems to me that, like, maybe Matt saying Nate's name was like the final straw from like Matt versus Jason, because it seems like Savannah Rizzo wanted to vote Jason out, but then Nate would be like, no, he said my name. We need to go him first.
I do think also they said like, oh, it's too late to flip it. So part of it might be like they just don't want to rock the boat too much this early in the game. So it could be like if they had had that talk about like, oh, I would prefer Jason go home like earlier in the day, then maybe it would have been Jason. So you just never know because sometimes it really is just like when you have the conversation. For some people, it's like I vote the last name that I hear and not necessarily who's better for my personal game. So,
That's true. We see Jason throughout the day saying he's basically going to stay Hina strong. And I was like, maybe that's not so good because it shows you're not really willing to like open up and work with new people. Like you want them to think you're like in with them, like at least fake it and say, I hate those people. I don't want to work with them. So you look like a number, like what Sophie did. She's basically saying, use me. I'm a number. Like that would be good. But maybe that whole strategy of I'm staying Hina strong worked out because like he's not throwing out names compared to Matt is throwing out names. To me, him saying he wanted to play the shot in the dark was sort of bad because I'm like, that's just showing you're not open, like you don't trust them and you're just going to use a shot in the dark. But maybe it's good because then you don't have a shot in the dark and then you're less threatening.
yeah, I think also part of it is just likability, where I think we talked earlier about how Matt was kind of awkward. And so I think that can also affect things. So I also think Jason could have made so much better arguments than like, oh, Hina's strong. Like he could have literally just said, like, you guys need me for the puzzles. But like his argument that he made this time for like why he should stay isn't going to work a second time. Like he's just setting himself up to get voted out the next time they lose.
I agree. I feel like it wasn't like Jason saving himself this episode. It was like, okay, Red and Sophie are picking who they want to go home. And maybe they did want to keep him because of the puzzles. And I'm glad like Jason realized like the Hina stuff isn't going to work and he wrote Matt's name down. I think he would just be digging a bigger hole if he like kept the Hina strong after the tribal council when they're like, you two are literally on the bottom when we're voting one of you out. Like at least he realized he should have write Matt's name down and he has to turn on Hina.
Yeah. But who knows? He might still be Hina strong once things continue to happen. So
I'd be interested, like it probably doesn't matter storyline wise, and that's why we didn't see it in the episode, but like when did Jason realize that he was on the bottom? Like what was his thought process going into this vote and at the vote? Like did he realize and flip? And did he realize and do this before tribal council, at tribal council when they're saying you two are on the bottom? Like, did Red approach you and say vote Matt or else? Because Red split the votes. Like, you can't have you can't split the votes and then like if something funky could happen. You want Jason to vote Matt also, so you have the vote split you want.
yeah, or it could just be they assume like Jason has an ounce of self-preservation, and because he has an ounce of self-preservation, he will figure out like he needs to vote for Matt. So
That's true. And I would love to know more. It's like Hina never went to tribal council. They never voted together. Jason is so Hina strong, but like I don't know. You're so Hina strong, but also you technically don't really know like how Hina would have voted if you did go to tribal council when you were OG Yellow. And like we saw with the edit, Jason wasn't really in any of the alliances on Yellow. Like we saw MC and Steven as the nexus of an alliance. And maybe Jason would be brought into a majority. But to me, it's interesting that he's so like gung ho for OG Yellow when they never voted. And as we saw, he was left out of the alliances.
yeah. And it's kind of like what OJ Blue said. Like, they have a bond because they've actually had to go to votes together and they've actually had to build trust with each other. Whereas Yellow and Red, like, no one actually knows how the other person is going to vote.
Yeah, it's all words. You don't know. They could be lying to you. And I think technically, if Yellow wanted to stay strong, technically, the other team, now Blue, should have thrown the challenge to try to save Matt and Jason because they could have just easily voted Sage and Shannon out because they have majority on the other team. Like, technically, if they wanted to save you, they could, but they let you lose, and now Matt or Jason's going home.
Yeah, I'm not sure either team thought that far ahead because you could make the argument the other way around of like, oh, if Red was worried about Sage and Shannon, so
So maybe it should show Matt and Jason they were expendable because it would be interesting if people do realize like the 4-2-1 split numbers and it's like, oh, maybe we should try to throw because now Hina is down a number. Technically, next week the blue should throw and try to vote Sage or Shannon out to get it to be 5-5 OG red, OG yellow. Like technically, it would be risky. You never know. You could get yourself voted out if you throw a challenge. But if they're thinking strictly numbers, technically they should both be throwing challenges.
technically, but I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah, we saw it happen recently on Australian Survivor, and like that was fun, but also like annoying to watch because then both teams like are trying to suck so bad and lose, and then it to me makes me feel bad for the people on the bottom because team challenge, there's nothing you can really do if your team wants to throw it, and then you just get voted out. So it feels bad. Hopefully people don't throw, but technically they should be throwing if it truly is an OG red versus OG yellow.
Yeah, technically, but I guess it is what it is. They already filmed it, so we don't know whether or not they figured out this throwing situation or not.
True. We'll see next week. At Tribal Council, Matt said again that he does not like Sandra's game. Sandra on social media did not like this. So you can't say bad things about former players on the show because that's not good for your social media presence.
I mean, It could be good for your social media presence because some people just want eyes on them, and that's a great way to get eyes on you.
That's true. So I feel like they had to vote Matt out here because Nate would probably want Matt voted out since Matt said his name. To me, I don't think Rizzo and Savannah could try to convince Matt to go Jason. And it could be the timing thing, like we said. But to me, if I were Nate and then the two others were trying to convince me not to go for the person saying my name, I'd be a little bit peeved off and be like, maybe I'm not so important in this alliance if they want to override me when like I have a direct threat coming at me and no one said your name.
Yeah. But it could also just be it doesn't really matter which of the two of them goes home. And you can just be like, oh, we'll get the other if we lose again. So,
Easy peasy. They got like 5v1 next week. I also thought it was funny when Jeff starts reading the votes and then Matt pats Jason on the back, like shoulder, when Jason got 2 votes and then Matt gets voted out.
yeah, that was kind of funny. I do always wonder if they like, if they're trying to get a certain reaction out of people because that did seem kind of designed to make you think that Jason was going to be voted out because a lot of times they will alternate votes and then only start reading duplicate votes once they've like run out of alternating votes, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So I see why Matt might have thought Jason was the one going home there and did his little back pat.
He's like, sorry, bro, it's you. Oh no, it's me.
Yeah.
Which was Matt just that confident? He didn't bring his bag or anything to tribal. We saw him walk off with nothing. Or it's like he didn't want to keep any of his stuff from the island. I wonder.
I wonder, or maybe he was just like, they need more clothes. They can have mine.
I want the bag as a souvenir. I'd be taking that thing every day. I'm like, if I get blindsided, voted out, I got a cool souvenir backpack.
Especially
Hopefully
when you
one.
know you're one of two people who are on the bottom. Like that is kind of weird.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I would want the bag, or maybe just didn't care about keeping the stuff.
Yeah.
But next time, I think will be interesting because if this tribe goes back to tribal council, honestly, it seems like people are getting annoyed with Jawan. Do they flip and vote Jawan out? That would even the OG red, OG yellow numbers. So just from that perspective, I feel like you have to suck it up and vote Jason out. But if the other tribe goes to tribal council, then they'd vote out a red. So I feel like maybe you still have to vote Jason out and keep Jawan just to have like numbers, or you're like, we replaced Jawan with Sophie, so we don't need him anymore. Let's vote him out.
We replaced Joanne with Sophie. Ugh. And then I bet Joanne would feel kind of stupid about having voted out someone who wanted to work with him.
That's true. So I'm excited for next week. I think it'll be very interesting. I guess because of the potential Jason might not get voted out. If the other tribe does go to tribal, I think it is Sage or Shannon going home.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think probably Shannon.
I agree. So let us know in the comments down below what you thought of this episode. Next week, do you think Jawan or Jason is going home, or do you think Sage or Shannon is going home? And which one out of those duos do you think is going home? Did you like this episode? Do you think they voted the right person out between Jason and Matt? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you